Hey, listen up for all of you who are a little bit distressed about what happened with the Supreme Court on last week regarding the gutting of the Voting Rights Act and the subsequent attempt to redraw districts and basically write black voters' will out of southern states. This Black History on Twos is especially for you. Never forget where we've come from and the bridge that brought us over. The fight is not over. The struggle continues. Check it out. All right, folks, listen, welcome back. This is Juggernaut, host of Black History on Twos, and today, not going to be a long piece, but it's going to be impactful. We're going to go visit the statue and also the place where a gentleman took his last breath trying to ensure the rights of black voters in 1871 here in the city of Philadelphia. His name was Octavius Valentine Catto. He was a person who helped to raise black troops during the Civil War, born to free black parents in Charleston, South Carolina in 1839. Goes on to become a star student at Institute of Colored Youth, ICY, which is the forerunner of Cheney University. In fact, he was the valedictorian in his high school class, comes back as a teacher there, but this guy was a star baseball player, tried to integrate what would become the major leagues with his team, the Pythians. They were rejected because, not because they couldn't play, but you guessed it, because they were black. He was also a civil rights leader. He and his fiancée, Caroline LeCount, famously led the desegregation of the trolley cars. Back then they were drawn by horses in carriages, looked like modern day trolleys, but horse-drawn, not electric. And most importantly, he was an avid supporter for voting rights for black people and could not wait to cast his vote in 1871, the first time black people were guaranteed that right under the newly created 15th Amendment. And so here we are right here. We're about to pull up right here where Catto's statue is and get a little bit of footage. Unfortunately, then we're going to go to the site where he was killed. I think it's important to pay homage to him in that location. So we're here at the Octavius Catto statue. Man, that's just disrespectful. The people who would do this don't even understand. Trash. That's when you don't know your own history. You disrespect it. So let's take a look quickly at the statue and all around. So Amendment 15. This 15th Amendment ultimately is what got him killed. The right to vote is what got him killed. He exercised that right. And here you have a timeline of his life cut down so young. I mean, so young, like Dr. King, like Malcolm X, like so many others, like Jimmy Lee Jackson. This is a replica of the Institute of Colored Youth, which became Cheney University. They're right. Shout him out as a leader. I mean, man, look at this statue. Look how impressive that is. That thing is like massive. Here is an image of the streetcar. Like I said, shout out to Mayor Jim Kenney. I got to give him credit. Former mayor who had this done. Raised the money for it. This is the first black person to be honored on the apron of City Hall in Philadelphia permanently. There was a temporary display of Harriet Tubman. Here you find the colored troops that Catto was famous for helping to recruit to help save the nation. As you can see, he was an athlete. It's got to be for the Pythians. There you go. Here's a baseball team, the Pythians. It's a great image. And so I love this quote. There must come a change which shall force upon this nation that course which Providence seems wisely to be directing for the mutual benefit of, wait a minute, wait for it, all peoples. Beautiful. Well said. All right, we're going to go on down to the site where Catto unfortunately lost his life, the neighborhood where he lived most of his life and went to school and taught and tried to vote. And for that act of trying to vote, because this thing here, 15th Amendment said he could, brother lost his life. But we're going down to South Street where Octavius Catto lost his life on Election Day of 1871. That young man should have lived to be in his 80s or 90s. He should have lived well into the 20th century to see advances of black people. He should have been able to sing one day, lift every voice and sing. But he was denied all of that because his life was cut short on this street that I'm riding on right now, right here. This is South Street. Looks a little different now than it did when he was here, but some of these buildings, I would imagine, like this, were here when he was here. Let's try to retain some of the character of the old neighborhood, but this was, at one point, one of the places where many black and immigrant families congregated. This was the edge of town, going back to Richard Allen's day. South Street was the dividing line. Go to the right of me, and you're in a different town. You go to the left, and you're in the heart of Philly. But right around the corner from ICY, former ICY, Institute for Colored Youth, where Catto was the valedictorian. But here we are. Oh man. Oh boy. Came up a little faster than I wanted it to. Be honest with you. So here in this neighborhood, where I'm standing right now, this is where Octavius Catto was attempting to get back home. As the story goes, mobs of young white men were attempting to stop black people from voting on the first time they had the opportunity, utilizing the 15th Amendment. And so Catto, being one of those persons who was a city leader in the black community, thought that he needed to protect himself, because by the end of the day they had shot 6 black men. 6 black men had been shot that day. Catto was already hearing about the violence that was going on, and so he went to a store around the corner, purchased a gun, but had no bullets. Was walking home, trying to get to safety, and was shot and killed right here on this spot where I'm standing. Like I said, he was shot and killed right here on this spot where I'm standing and where I'm parked. Here, Catto took his last breaths. And the reason I wanted to come here today is because voting rights is once again under attack. And some people will say, well, everybody has a tough time voting, and there are restrictions against everyone. And everybody's had a hard time. Immigrants came here, and they too had to struggle, and women had to fight for their right. And other groups had similar challenges. And I certainly won't take any of that away from people. A struggle is real. I'm not going to diminish it or try to compare it in that regard. What I'll say is, historically, when you think about the right to vote for black people, however, the major difference is that no one else can say that they were openly shot and killed in election day violence, not just in an isolated case, but systemically. Across the river, this exact same story happened the previous year in 1870 in Camden. And it also led to the death of one or two black voters as they were beaten standing in line. In fact, in Camden, they went out and took the ballot box out of the ballot place. A group of white, angry men busted the ballot box and scattered their votes all in the street. Those men reformed their ranks, however. They were Civil War veterans, many of them, these black guys, and went back in and still cast their vote that day. But if you think about it, 1871 all the way to the 1960s, so you get the 15th Amendment in the early 1870s, guaranteeing the right. But it would not be until the signing of the Voter Rights Act in 1965 that it's actually guaranteed. Folks, that's literally almost 100 years. And throughout that time, there were games played, poll taxes, literacy tests. You can only vote if your great-grandfather voted. Well, how could that be? Because great-grandfather was a slave. I mean, it's just crazy. And then if none of those things worked, outright intimidation, we'll fire you from your job, we'll kick you off the land if you're a sharecropper, or worse, we'll murder you. We'll burn you out of your home, burn you out of your churches. And so there is a history and legacy of this in this country, sadly. And so for those who don't see a connection between what the Supreme Court is doing today and this anti-black movement moment that we're in with the history and legacy, then you are just being willfully ignorant in this moment. You see it, but you don't want to admit it. And so I'm here to remind people of why voting is important in the first place and why places like this are important. And so we want to thank in the memory of Octavius Catto. His funeral was the biggest funeral in Philadelphia's history up until that point, 1871, except for Abraham Lincoln. But besides Abraham Lincoln, more people came out to his funeral than anyone else had done up until that moment. And so thank you, Octavius Valentine Catto. We're going to keep on fighting for you and for others who gave their lives that we might exercise our right to vote, even when we're being gerrymandered out of our own districts. Struggle continues. It's Black History on Tuesday. I'm out.